Dana White announced the retirement of Jon Jones this past Saturday in Azerbaijan, and it is now clear that nobody has ever had as big of a last laugh against Dana White as none other than the man, the myth himself, the Predator, Francis Ngannou. Now, I pulled up a lot of clips I want to show you. I want to start off watching this full video because it is very important what Francis said in this video that correlates to the entire issue that Dana White has had with Jon Jones and the heavyweight division for the last few years. I'm not going to waste your time. Let's jump into it.
Hello everyone. I want to thank you for being so patient with me during this time. From my last fight, my surgery, and my negotiation behind the scene with the UFC. I want to thank the UFC fans who have supported me during this time, and thanks to the UFC for the past 7 years. I want to share my excitement for the heavyweight fight between Jon Jones and Francis Ngannou. It's going to be a very exciting fight. I'm going to be watching that fight. But we all know.
So we're starting right off with Gone versus Jones, UFC 285, March 5th, 2003. 2 years ago. Now, I should have prefaced this. If you guys don't know what happened in the Francis situation, Francis fought Stipe the first time, got out grappled, went on another tear in the UFC heavyweight division, earned his way back to the title on his second to last fight on his contract, had one more fight left, needed to get surgery. The UFC made Cyril Gahn and Derek Lewis as an interim title fight, so they had a guaranteed champion while they were negotiating with Francis. It didn't work out. Francis ended up fighting Gone at was that 280? I forget, no, not 280. He fought Gone, won, left with the belt. Jones came in. We're gonna cover it all, but let's just listen to everything that Francis says in this video, and how he was dead right with what would happen with the UFC.
The term undisputed mean nothing here. Yes, it really mean nothing. But I will still be excited watching that fight.
You're going to fight arguably the greatest fighter of all time. You'd be the highest paid heavyweight ever in UFC history. Or you think there's more money out there to fight somebody who isn't the greatest of all time, somebody who is a lesser opponent. I mean, you'll have to ask Francis that question, but in my opinion, that's what it is.
They have also said that I'm scared of fighting Jon Jones or somebody else, which I don't know where they came from with that one. That sounds very ridiculous, in my opinion, with all due respect, because I've been calling for this fight for over 2 years. I've been waiting for this fight forever. And I've been fighting guys even with one knee, with injury. And now, why do I be scared of them? Why I feel even more confident? No, I'm not scared. The only thing that I'm scared of is to be trapped. It's not to lose my freedom, which I value very much. You guys know how the UFC contract.
So, right there, and we knew this the entire time. Francis had no issue fighting Jon Jones. He just wanted to get his payday. He wanted to get what he wanted. He rightfully deserved. There is not a single fighter in this sport that deserves more money than Francis Ngannou. And if you want to know why, go watch Mick Smalley Whopper's documentary on him. But it was bullshit. We all knew it. We all knew that Francis wasn't scared. He just wanted the right compensation to give Dana White's boyfriend a shot at his belt.
Can be restrictive, and as an independent contractor, you don't really have a say in that contract. You don't even have a right. So I can't do that.
If you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here.
Yeah, I want to talk about this too. The whole thing Dana White has said for years, and Randy Couture, infamously, I should have pulled that clip up here as well, but I didn't. He was one of the ones to testify against the UFC years ago, and he basically said, if we are independent contractors, why can't we go fight in other promotions? Why are we locked in to one promotion where you can only fight under one umbrella? Yet you're calling us independent contractors. And he had a legitimate point that if the MMA community listened to back then, I feel a lot of this stuff would have come to light a lot sooner. And we didn't need to have a year like 2025 where Pereira can't save the company anymore. And, you know, you got this situation now.
Anyone who doesn't have to be here doesn't have to be here. You know that's not true, right? You know how restrictive the UFC contract can be for a contract that's supposedly uh, for independent contractor. So there's not really a lot of things that you want or you can do when you are in that contract. They decide for you. I signed my last contract in December 2017. Even at the time, I knew it wasn't a good contract, but I know I have to um, earn my position, become a champion, have more value. In order to negotiate a better deal for me, I need to add more value to myself. And that's what I've been doing in the past 5 years, and which is okay. I never really complained with that contract, no matter what happened. The only thing that I wanted is the right to deliver that contract, to terminate that contract as I should, and move on into the next one. I do believe that I have that right at least. I mean, that's called freedom, to be able to terminate a contract in order to start another one. And if the new one doesn't suit your condition, you're also free not to sign without going into a bad blood. So
This is something that a lot of the guys in the UFC would never ever say. You would never hear a Sean O'Malley, a Jon Jones. Well, Jon Jones kind of said that, right? Yeah. Jon Jones, that's a bad example. You would never see a Taporia, a Khabib, an Islam saying this stuff. Francis Ngannou is one of the most real fighters we've ever had. And again, I go back to Randy Couture, right? This happened years, I believe, a decade after that. I'm gonna get into the antitrust lawsuits. I'm gonna get into all of that. But right there, you get what I'm saying. Well, Francis was never afraid to fight Jon Jones. He called for that fight for a few years. He, excuse me, the same way as Jon Jones, wants to be compensated. Well, different from Jon Jones, he wanted the fight. He wanted to be compensated. Those were the two things he needed to feel comfortable risking his life in a cage, getting CTE, getting choked out. And everybody but Dana White sees that. Dana White, deep down, he knows Francis made the right move for his career, his family. Francis, after the UFC, has become an A-list celebrity. I'm not sure if that would have happened if he fought Jones, lost, and then he would have probably been a contender for the rest of his career.
That's how I feel about it. It's just unfortunate that we didn't come to a term, which I wish we could have, but it is what it is, you know. But as an independent contractor, I have to look up to myself and do what's right for me. And everyone out there should do the same for themselves. Now, it's very crucial for my future. I have to take a time, decide uh, what's my next move, and I'm gonna speak. I'm gonna speak to people, some people out there, and see what's possible. Hopefully, I mean, I want to start do some boxing at first before step into MMA, because regardless, I still have so much excitement and so much love with MMA that I feel like I haven't delivered everything regarding MMA. But also want to do some boxing match. So yes,
That was the number one thing you said. And again, his past. Francis started off training in boxing. He wanted to be a boxer his entire life. Then, he tried fleeing Africa a couple times and got caught. Eventually, he made his way over to France and he was training boxing, decided to go into MMA. With only a few years of training, runs through everybody, gets to the title fight, loses the first fight, goes on another tear after that really shitty fight against Derek Lewis, gets the belt, and the moment he tries to do what's right for him, what's right for his family, Dana White turned on him, and we're gonna get to it.
maybe explore a possibility to do one boxing match and come back into MMA with another organization promotion or my own promotion. Everywhere that I feel respected, everywhere that I feel value, I'll be happy to do that. You know, free agency is something that no many fighter in their prime, in their very top, has a chance to experience. And then now I have it. I fight for it. I fought for it for the past 3 years. I have it, and I really want to do a better use out of it. And remember, they're gonna be saying a lot of things. They're gonna be trying to bash me, to devalue me. But no matter what, don't fraud. You have to remember who the real king is. The best heavyweight in the world. I'm the best heavyweight in the world. And I don't care what they say out there. Hey man, I'm the man. You know, I'm the best. I'm the king.
2 years ago. 2 years ago, he made all that. And the reason he left was to better his family life, better his life, but also better fighters. What was the main thing he talked about? Healthcare. Healthcare for fighters. Being an independent contractor. And what was Dana White's response? I have a couple of them.
Francis just thinks that he's in a position where he's got some Conor McGregor Mayweather fight on his hands, which he does not. That fight was like a once in a lifetime type deal. MMA guys versus boxers doesn't make any sense to me. But I know that he thinks there's all this money in it. I disagree. I don't think there is. I know how the story ends. I get what Francis is doing. I wish him all the luck in the world. Francis just thinks that
He lost both fights. But he made like what, $30 million from them both? Probably the same amount of money he would have got from his entire contract if you go to re-sign with the UFC. Let's continue.
And me praying for it, trust me, I don't think about Francis that much. You guys asked me the question.
Actually, right now,
And another thing you mentioned at Power Slap the other night was stuff about Francis Ngannou, and that stirred up a lot of reaction from the MMA community and from Francis himself. And he had a very interesting quote. Can I read you a little bit? He said, he can't handle this loss, referring to you. I'm sure he's been praying for my downfall. Which money is he talking about? The money that he owes me. They say we're going to give you back pay from the money we owe you from the Stipe and Cyril Gane fights. All that, they never paid me back. Now I've made more money than I would have ever made in the UFC. I would say twice the money in my entire UFC career.
Yeah, when have you ever heard a story in all the years we've been in business, even when it was upside down, where we owed somebody money? Never.
345 million, bumped up to 375 million from a judge, yet another 325 million antitrust lawsuit, and you have another one, this time brought up by, Phil Davis? Yeah, Phil Davis, right? Correct me if I'm wrong down below. I haven't really looked into that one as much. I do want to make an update on it, but I need to look at it more. But again, dude, Francis made the better business decision than you, Dana White.
Never happened. So he's full of shit there. Then I lost. I didn't lose anything. I was done with Francis after the. He actually owes me money because we had to watch that fight with him and the Black Beast. He should actually pay me back for that fight, and all of you. And me praying for it. Trust me, I don't think about Francis that much. You guys asked me.
He doesn't think about Francis that much. I got 2 more videos after this. Dude, talk about oblivious. Holy shit, Dana White. You should know better than anybody. The guy who took this company from $1 million in the hole to bringing it to a multi-billion-dollar organization. You know Francis's background. You know what Francis went through. You know there's no loyalty in business. How many fighters have you fucked over? How many fighters have you cut? How many fighters have, you had the same beef with? Again, I mentioned Couture. Tito Ortiz was one. And even the Diaz brothers had a little thing. GSP had his issue when he wanted to take time because of personal reasons.
The question about the PFL, and I responded. Other than that, the only one who's praying for his demise is probably the PFL because they signed a shitty contract with a guy that doesn't deliver any numbers and ticket sales or pay-per-views. So, and they got to keep paying this guy for however long, and good for him, and not good for them.
Okay, he was kind of right there. But again, I think Francis is a big name. I think not very many people wanted to buy a PFL pay-per-view. That was probably the first time many people watched a PFL event in their entire lifetime. Understandable. But you are having the same issues, Dana, like with your company right now. Nobody wants to buy your pay-per-views. I am a fucking idiot, and I buy each pay-per-view. I spend the $81.50 around there for each pay-per-view. I'm gonna have to buy this weekend's pay-per-view. Dana, dude, you fumbled the bag. This is on you. Francis made his money. Francis turned into a bigger star without you.
Yeah, and I know
What was the other question?
it was. I know you said like he's all about the money, but then you also said like he would have made more money to stay here.
And
So
that's
can
a
you just
fact.
clarify
He
that?
can play those games all he wants. He would have made more.
We know the number. We knew that you were offering 10 mil for him to fight Jones. You probably were offering Jones 15, 20. If I had to guess, I forgot the numbers that they were giving John. And then fucking John ups and leaves after stalling out your division. Francis had no issue fighting. Francis was injured. He was ready to go in September, and you made the interim belt out of spite. Fuck, man.
More money here.
And just
Let
lastly,
me tell you what. There were two guys here. I wanted to cut them. Someday I'll tell you the story. Francis was like, I was all about Francis in the beginning, and then I found out who Francis was. And I told the two guys who asked me not to cut Francis, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And, yeah, believe me, I have no sleepless nights over Francis leaving.
so just two more things on this.
Yep.
You wanted to cut him, but he went on to become the UFC heavyweight champion. So I guess what does that say about that thought process?
Yeah.
Does it show he should have stayed?
Well,
Or?
no. I didn't like Francis as a person. Wasn't a guy I wanted to do business with. My boys were telling me he's misunderstood. And I told them, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Yeah, it wasn't a...
So he's basically going to say the same thing over and over again. Everybody told Dana White he was a fucking idiot. Everybody in the UFC, everybody in the MMA community, we wanted to see Francis chase his dreams. And you could have promoted the Tyson Fury fight. I fucking forgot about when he immediately after, I gotta pause this, immediately after Francis left, John came back for the Gauntlet fight. At the fucking press conference for that fight, he was talking about Tyson Fury versus Jon Jones. Now he wanted to do it inside the cage, but he was so fucking against it for Francis. And the moment John said he'd be interested in it, he wanted to steal that fight from Francis Ngannou. But Tyson Fury knew right away what Dana White was doing. And he kept his word with Francis. He gave Francis that opportunity. Francis did one hell of a job.
Hi.
I'd like to ask you a question about, like, on the heavyweight front, you recently set a deadline for Jon Jones to face Tom Aspinall or risk losing the title. And with that situation evolving, what criteria are you using to decide uphold legacy by waiting for Jones or prioritize division activity by clearing the belt?
You said the timeline for Jones, 2 weeks to decide what to do with the title, whether it takes the fight or you're going to strip him. What do you think is more important, to keep the belt there so he can uphold his legacy, or we move the heavyweight division, take the title away from him?
Jon Jones called us last night and retired. Jon Jones is officially retired. Tom Aspinall is the heavyweight champion of the UFC.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you just canceled out my...
Congratulations, Dana White. And I already made that video. I already made my congratulations, Dana White video. But it's just funny, right? It's funny. You had John come back so that you can move away from Francis. You took your jabs at Francis. And who was right in the end? I forgot what I have over here.
Would you be open to having
What?
Francis
He
back?
would consider coming back to UFC if what? One thing I've learned over the years about Francis doesn't always mean what he says publicly, what he says behind.
Francis doesn't mean what he says in publicly. I don't know. It's almost like, somebody else is saying the fight is gonna happen. The fight is gonna happen. We're gonna get the fight done. The fight is gonna happen. He also said that the fight is gonna happen and it'll get done. As well as the heavyweight fight will get done. Never said Tom Aspinall's name. Luckily, Tom Aspinall did a lot of media, has his own YouTube channel, and built himself as a star with the help of the MMA community.
The scenes are different than what he says publicly. I'm not a big fan. I would be shocked if Francis ever came back here on lots of different levels. I'm not a fan, and he doesn't always mean what he says publicly.
Would you be open to having Francis?
He wanted to go box. He boxed. He wanted to advance fighter healthcare. He did exactly that in the PFL. Yeah, it did fold the company, but the UFC, MMA itself at this point, there are no other organizations that even come close to the UFC. What do I have over here?
I guess looking back on the whole Francis situation, do you have any regret, or do you feel like it's just always how it was going to end, regardless of anything?
No, I didn't think this is how it was going to end. I thought we'd eventually come to a deal with him, but we didn't.
See the change up there? See the change up there? He got some shit on Francis Ngannou in every interview he did. So where, yeah, I had no regrets. It just went how it went. How the fuck is Dana White still running this company? I don't get it. So, I want to end this up, off. Oh, what the fuck? I want to end this off going over the timeline. 2020, February 8th, Reyes fight. He looked shit in that fight. He looked shit in these other two fights. Didn't want to be there. Should have lost the Dominic Reyes fight. So, well, okay, the Thiago Santos fight was a split decision. But again, Santos had one leg, and he didn't notice. Then he takes 3 years off, builds up all this mass, and it works out. A first on guillotine over Silgon. This is the new and improved Jon Jones. He's at heavyweight. He's motivated. Stipe Miocic, you're next in November. Jon Jones tears his pec. Tom Aspinall fights Sergey Pavlovich for the interim belt because Stipe didn't want to fight for the interim belt, which I don't think anybody holds any grudges against Stipe for not fighting Tom Aspinall. He got fucked over by the UFC a lot too, and he only wanted to fight for the undisputed belt, which I feel all of us understand. And then he goes on fights Stipe the next year, a year and 5 days later, and Stipe is completely washed. I wanted the Stipe fight for years. I wanted the Stipe fight after the first Francis fight. I wanted Jon Jones to move up and fight Cain Velasquez. But again, it's like the moment we get to, what was it? The moment we get to 2014 is where it all falls apart. the drug test, the police, the first DUI, the first hit and run, and he always came back. A lot of unanimous decisions, though. Head kick KO over Daniel Cormier, overturned because you put steroids in your body. Nobody knows if it's a tainted supplement, if it was intentional. So I'm not gonna say it was or it wasn't. He KOs Gus the same, but still the Toronto ball is in his system. Had the 5-round fight against Anthony Smith in March. Won that. Fought Thiago Santos in July of 2019. And then you go over to Francis Ngannou, right? Let's just go from the bottom. Now, he lost his second fight by decision, but got a submission, TKO, another submission. And then he gets to the UFC in 2015. Second round TKO, second round TKO against Blades. First round KO, first round submission, first round KO, first round KO. A brutal uppercut KO over Alistair Overeem. Fights Steve Miocic the first time, gets out grappled. And then he has a boring fight against Derek Lewis. But I mean, compared to the heavyweight fights we have now, this will be a fucking barn burner. Curtis Blades, round 1 TKO, once again. King Velasquez, round 1 TKO. JDS, round 1 TKO. Rosenstrike, round 1 TKO. Fight Stipe the second time for the belt. Second round left hook. But Stipe, yeah, I had to say this as I was a big Stipe fan. Stipe ran into that shot. I really don't know what he was doing. He said that he thought Francis was rocked. But again, you don't drop your hands against somebody like Francis. He should have just delayed in the first fight. Then, all of this shit starts. He has one fight on his deal. Doesn't want to resign. They give Gon the interim belt. And he beats Gon. Now Gon wins the first 2 rounds. Francis starts using the wrestling, which he used in the Ren Ferrero fight to get an easy KO. But again, one fight, 3 fights in 3 years. Actually, let's just go, 6 fights in 5 years. 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess Jon Jones did it away everywhere. But Dana White was so confident that Jon would come in. Jon would at least go on a little bit of a run. Fight Stipe, maybe fight a contender or two, and then retire. Well, none of us expected Jon Jones to stay around that long. All he needed to do, fight Gon. He wanted the Stipe fight. Cool, you did it. Fight Aspinall. And then, right there, Gon, Stipe, Aspinall. There's no other names. There's no other names at heavyweight. But, no. Dana White, his ego, to get back at Francis, to give his boyfriend the belt, demolished the heavyweight division. Stalled it for 2 years. And now we have to wait until Tom Aspinall gets booked for a fight to really get this division going. After 3 years. And I didn't even bring up the healthcare situation that much. But I'm gonna bring it up at the end. BJ Penn, Nick Diaz, all these other guys. Maybe healthcare is important in the UFC. Maybe healthcare for the guys who are taking consistent brain damage every few months is needed. But I don't know. I want to pull up all these receipts. I still gotta make a video on Cole Roundtree. Gotta do predictions for this week and that. But I just want to know, do you guys think that Francis Ngannou is getting the last laugh? And I honestly think they're gonna have to bring back Francis to really have another star in the heavyweight division. Well, let me know in the comments down below. What do you think about the Dana White Francis beef? And do you agree with me? Francis is the only one sitting pretty right now.